Really good, my people. Welcome in to No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Little. Big Nick, the quick with me as always. NFL Week 5, off and running. It's a Wednesday. We're going to break it down. Biggest game of the weekend. Cowboys go to San Francisco. Sunday night football line sits at 3.5. Niners are the favorites. We're going to talk about that. Talk about Dak Prescott. I want to talk about Mike Tomlin and how pathetic the Steelers' offense has been. Couple different things going on there. Matt Canada is a Mike Tomlin hire. Should Mike Tomlin be on the hot seat? Who's on the hot seat? The overall culture and coaches with the Steelers is one of the most interesting things in the NFL that even today doesn't probably get enough attention. We'll talk about that. A couple other storylines in the NFL. Then we'll close it out with some bets we like going into Week 5. Then the association is back in action. NBA Media Day was early this week. I got a couple clips we're going to go through, talk about Media Day, talk about a couple teams. NBA is back. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. Let's get to it.
Now look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're going to play it. You going to do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that. And it became personal with me.
Nick the Quick, what's goody?
How we feeling?
Man, you already know.
Yes, sir.
Wednesday, I'm jammed up now on Tuesday, man. I do a show on Tuesday for MSG, so we might have to move to Wednesday or just go super early on Tuesday. We will let y'all know what we decide to do, but
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Regardless. Oh, Big Nick the Quick, I got my clothes back. Easy.
Oh, you got stuff back?
Yeah,
so how'd it go, man? I gotta hear the story, man. You had to go find Buddy,
easy,
or what
just
happened?
Just a little easy mix-up, man. You already know.
Nothing missing.
He just gave me the wrong bag. Nothing missing.
Okay.
Everything still wrapped up, tied up, folded. I walked over there. I gave him the other clothes back. He gave me mine. He was like, "My fault. Sorry about that." I said, "Don't worry about it."
So had he delivered it somewhere else, or it was back at the
No,
at the shop?
it was still the other person hadn't come to pick up their stuff. So mine was still there. So it was just a little swap back.
Easy.
You know what I'm saying?
Easy. All's well that ends well.
All's well that ends well. Everything is all good. The dude that did it felt bad. So I was,
yeah.
I won't lose my man's business, man. He does good work. So
yeah,
I gotta rock.
Okay, man. Mistakes happen, man. Mistakes happen. Look, man, we've all been there, man. Shit happens. What are you gonna do? As long as they correct it. As long as they own it and correct it, let's move on, man.
No doubt. Let's jump right into it. NFL Week 5. This is one of the toughest slates, first of all, I've looked at in quite some time. This slate is extremely difficult.
And Sean said that's Tuesday at 7 a.m. Like immediately, first thing, the slate is crazy.
The slate is crazy. And I was on the look aheads, but obviously you don't get a real determination on spots until the games are over. And, I looked at the slate. And forget about picks, Nick. It was tough to have any real leans that I liked. If I had to bet, I would lean this way. It's a really tough slate. And the biggest game on the board is the Cowboys and the Niners. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have been knocked out back-to-back years in the playoffs by the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers have been a mainstay in the NFC for quite a while now. And it's been as much as we talk about Kyle Shanahan and his offense, it's been a defense-first football team. They have been 100%. Absolutely nasty on the defensive side of the rock.
Led by that line up front.
Led by Warner, the line up front. They've been deep. They rotate guys. Greenlaw is an absolute nightmare. I tweeted this earlier, and it's gone throughout his career. This has been the fact. Every time he tackles someone, it looks like it's just pure violence. Like he's trying to knock them out the game. They are physical. They are ready to go on a week-to-week basis, and they have tons of weapons on offense.
You forgot about your boy, man. How can you talk about the 49ers defense and not say
of course, Nick is there. I try not to give Nick.
No. Your boy, the safety.
Talanoa
Hufanga.
Hufanga. He's amazing.
Monster.
Ball hawk.
Yeah.
Baby Palomalu.
Love it.
Dude, their overall everything about that squad is how you want your franchise to be run. They really value the offensive line led by Trent Williams. They really value the trenches. And then they build out from there. They go and get physical linebackers that clean up anything the D-line has missed, which is usually not much. So
and if you're not going to have a franchise quarterback, that's how you roster build, right? Like even despite having Jimmy there, they really have built that roster that's around that team.
And now they might have a franchise
and they might have a franchise guy there. They might have fell into one. So
it looks like
he's the franchise guy. We've already talked about Brock Purdy at length in this pod over the last few weeks and how we need to stop saying things like, yeah, but it's Brock Purdy, or, but can Brock Purdy do this? Can Brock Purdy do that? I heard someone the other day talk about who they've been playing, and it's been easy for Brock Purdy. And I'm like, listen, man, let's stop the cat, man. This is the NFL. We see it every week. Guys struggle. This guy hasn't. So give this man his flowers. He's legitimate.
Brock Purdy, number 1 in passer rating, number 1 in QBR, number 1 in winning percentage, number 1 in TD to interception percentage ratio. He was 20 of 21 this week. He pushes the ball downfield. He gets the ball out quickly. He breaks down and evaluates what he's seeing quickly, similarly to Tua. He has tons of weapons, sure, but he puts the ball in the right spot more times than not. It's been pretty spectacular what this guy Brock Purdy has been doing.
He's not Trent Dilfer out there, which I think sometimes if you're not paying close attention to what people might be thinking, like he is literally out there making the plays. Like you said, he's driving the ball downfield. They're not running some limited conservative offense with Brock Purdy out there. Shanahan feels comfortable giving him the entire playbook and allowing him to execute, and that's exactly what he's doing. So, Brock Purdy's legit, man. Like at some point, it's legit. To me, it's legitimate, man.
There's 3 quarterbacks that haven't thrown an interception in the NFL. Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud, Joshua Dobbs. There's 2 quarterbacks that haven't thrown an interception that have thrown for more than 1,000 yards, which means they're actually getting the rock up quite a bit. C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy. And really quick, to talk about C.J. Stroud real quick, go watch the tape. Dude, he looks spectacular.
Big throws. That throw to Collins in the end zone the other day was fantastic. That's a high level throw.
Accuracy.
Yep.
Quick release.
Yep.
Footwork in the pocket. There's something about, if you go back and look, of course we get right into quarterback play, but it's legitimate. Listen, go look at the last throw from Justin Herbert against the Raiders last week. It's 4th down. He gets blitzed. He stands in the pocket. There's absolute mayhem around him. Chaos. He has a dislocated finger on his left hand. He has a brace on it. He stands in the pocket. Feet are as calm as they can possibly be. Eyes are downfield. He goes straight up the sideline, makes an unbelievable throw. If you want to know if a quarterback is confident and comfortable, just look at his feet at the top of his drop when there's a little bit of hecticness. Hecticness? Is that a word?
Hecticness is definitely not a word. Chaos. I think chaos is the descriptive word of hectic.
You can't do that. You can't say that?
No, I don't think you can have hecticness.
I don't think hecticness
I'm not too sure, but I don't believe so. Someone let us know in the comments. But
what I'm getting at is go look at C.J. Stroud. Go look at the tape. His feet, his footwork, very calm, looks very confident. He's been spectacular.
And that's the type of stuff when we break down Fields, it's kind of the exact opposite, right? There's the ball padding, there's the what am I going to do here? And it's not just a Justin Fields thing, but for comparison, when you see those quarterbacks who aren't poised and things seem to fall around them and they can't really handle and they go into, panic mode or hero mode and make a bad decision, you don't see that from Stroud early, which is huge.
This is also a thing too where,
and let's not act like that's the most talented roster in the world either. This team won 2 ball games last year, I think.
Yeah, they got a new coach, new everything, right?
Yeah.
And this is also used in, this verbiage is used in soccer a lot, like in form, out of form. You can be in form, playing well, confidence is there, feet are calm, and then start to fall out of form, i.e. Joe Burrow. he doesn't look super comfortable.
Not at
His
all.
feet are kind of all over the place. He's
That's an
patting the
understatement.
ball. He's not locked like he usually is. So you could be in form, out of form. Right now, CJ Stroud, to be in form the way he is in the first 4 games of his career has been spectacular. But I say that to say this. And another example, before he left the league, Tom Brady, go look at that tape. Feet all over the place, doesn't know where he wants to go with the rock, worried about the people in his face instead of looking
You're talking
downfield.
about last year?
Yeah, I guess last year. But look,
all right.
Didn't want to get hit. I mean,
Chill.
what are we talking about? This is the truth.
48 years old.
But I'm saying, but like,
I get. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, because
when the guy's uncomfortable,
when you don't protect the guy,
when they're not locked in, yeah, exactly. So I say that to say this: Stroud, Purdy are playing high level ball and throwing the ball. CJ Stroud, the first four games, 30 attempts, 44 attempts, and 47 attempts.
Yeah,
it's not like he's throwing the ball 18, 19 times, and we're talking about him not.
And they've won 2 straight too. They're not 0-4 either. He is now what he's doing is translating into wins. Again, this was not a talented roster. I don't think this is a roster that anybody had a ton of expectations out of. And the fact that they dropped their first 2, but now you win 2 straight. You get a ton of good momentum. The locker room is feeling good. We talk about it all the time. When your quarterback is shit, right? We've all heard the Zach Wilson narrative. Shout out to him for this weekend. But prior to that, when your quarterback is shit, and that 100% affects how you play on the field. Those boys in the Texans locker room, D'Amico Ryans and all them, they know, hey, we got a guy, right? We have a dude. We have a guy that's going to go out there and give us a chance every single weekend. So, you're going to see some positive things come out of there. And obviously he's executing, man. I love it. Shout out CJ Stroud, man. And I think, and we kind of knew this, right? Wasn't that kind of the scouting report on Stroud? Of all the guys, this is the most NFL-ready guy, right? Might not have the upside of Young and Richardson. Obviously Richardson is Mr. Upside and Bryce Young. There's things that he can do that other guys just can't do. But it was like, hey, CJ Stroud, he's technically sound, knows what he's going to do. He's played a good amount of football. And again, you're seeing it out there right now, man. So I'm happy for him. Really happy for the kid.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about this Cowboys-Niners matchup. As I alluded to at the start of the episode, Dak has been knocked out of the playoffs by the San Francisco 49ers 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. Nick, how big of a deal is this game? Massive. How big of a deal is it that Dak performs well and plays top tier football on prime time on Sunday night? Everyone will be watching. This is going to be one of the highest rated games outside of Taylor Swift showing up in quite a long time.
I thought we weren't going to talk about it every here. I know catch up now. I think this game is way bigger for the Cowboys than it is for the 49ers because the Cowboys are the ones that have the narrative, I guess, that they have to kind of go against, right? The national narrative is obviously pointed against the Cowboys at time, or they're just talked about all the time. So I think that they have more to gain by coming out and having a big win in this game than the 49ers do. I think if the Cowboys come out and they handle business in San Francisco, get a big win against a team that a lot of people think is the best team in the NFL, I think that'll go a long way to quieting some of the noise around that team, which will then allow them to settle into their season and handle business. I think if they go out there and they get spanked by the Niners, right, or just don't put up a good enough performance, I think they're going to hear nothing but noise for the next few weeks. And even though we know as an organization and as an owner, Jerry likes the noise, it's not going to be kind of the noise that they need to hear. Again, we talk about it. Whenever you mention Dak Prescott, never heard any quarterback get their interceptions talked about as much as Dak Prescott. They act like he's Jay Cutler out there. So again, I think they just need a positive result, some that's going to give, they're in good, not necessarily momentum, but again, just to kind of change that narrative around them so that people aren't talking about what the Cowboys aren't. And is this another Cowboys team that's going to underachieve and blah, 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 blah. The 49ers, on the other hand, man, the way that they go about business, everybody knows that they're good, but they don't get the attention like that. So I think if they were to lose this game, it's not necessarily going to have a whole bunch of people down on the 49ers like they would on the Cowboys.
You don't think so? You don't think people?
I don't think so at all. I think people have arrows out for the Cowboys, man. They're ready. The second they do something wrong, it gives you another 7 days to talk about how the Cowboys aren't good enough, about how this is going to be another time when they play against a big team, they're not going to win, and how they're just kind of bullies, right? They need to dispel that narrative. They need to go out there and get a big win against a team, like you said, that has knocked them out of the playoffs the last 2 years. This is your boogeyman. So I think it's massive for the Cowboys. I think it's massive for McCarthy, and I think it's massive for Dak Prescott. if you could have a playoff game in week 5, this is kind of the equivalent of it as far as just the moment, again, the kind of story that it could write for them and then for the rest of their season. Yeah, I don't for the Niners, obviously it's a huge game. You want to beat that team at home, you want to beat another contender, but I don't think if they lose this game, you're going to be sitting around talking on Monday, hey, are the 49ers not good, or are they not a contender, or is Brock Purdy not a guy? I don't think that's going to be the narrative around them at all. Listen to how the Cowboys are talked about.
Yeah, it's a lot of, can they get over the top? Can they do this, do that? Forget about
to get over the top, you got to get over the top. So, I mean.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I will say this too, though. One of the two games, one was in Dallas, one was in San Francisco, but now you're in San Francisco again. The biggest thing coming into the year, I picked the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl, just so we're clear. I think this is the year they get over the top. I like Dak. I think Dak can play ball. I've always liked Dak. I've been a little bit of a Dak apologist. I'm not going to lie to you. He's under a lot of pressure in Dallas. I love the way he deals with the pressure. I love the way he deals with Jerry Jones. It's a lose-lose over there. If you're not Patrick Mahomes, it's lose-lose. So I like the way he deals with everything that goes on with the Cowboys and having to deal with that fan base and that pressure and that media. Forget about what everybody else is going to say. And this is about proving to yourself and in the locker room that you guys can compete with these dudes. If they go out to San Francisco and get mauled, they have absolutely no chance to beat those guys down the road. Because first of all, the game is most likely going to be in San Francisco. Secondly, mentally, it's just going to start to weigh on these boys like, man, we can't fucking beat these dudes. They're too tough. We couldn't beat Garoppolo. Now Purdy is playing top of the league. There's still this is also the other thing. It's not like Dak's not looking at the same guys on defense for San Francisco. These are the same fucking guys damn near. It's almost the same roster. So it's not like he can try to find an edge in a spot. If you go through every unit, would you give the Cowboys an advantage in any spot?
No.
Not even defense?
Well, I mean, if you feel that Trent Williams cancels out Michael Parsons, that's the matchup, honestly. You're talking, if you want to talk about the primetime matchup on the field, it's going to be the best offensive lineman in the NFL versus the best.
You just keep
it almost feels cheap to call Michael Parsons a pass rusher, but if we're talking about Michael Parsons, the pass rusher, that's what he's going to be doing against Trent Williams. That's the matchup right there. That's the only place where you could probably say, yeah, maybe they have an advantage. But I mean, I think those Niners, the scheme that 49ers go with and how everything kind of works together and the pressure that they put up front with those defensive linemen and how much they prioritize that, it helps everybody else out. So I don't know. I don't know where the advantage is for the Cowboys, to be completely honest. And the one thing that San Francisco does well, which is rush the ball, is where Dallas tends to struggle the most, right? Dallas' defense is great, but if you go back to that Cardinals game, the Cardinals ran all over the field on them. So if San Francisco, who is a better running team, can replicate that type of performance, it's going to be a long night for the Dallas Cowboys.
Now, I've watched 3 of the 4 games for San Francisco. Vast majority of the success is coming when Christian McCaffrey has the rock. I had a big bet on Christian McCaffrey under 17.5 carries. I think it was 18.5. No, it was 17.5. He finished with 18. And the reason he finished with 18 in that short week is because anytime anybody touched the rock that wasn't him, there was no success being had. Christian McCaffrey right now accounts for 37% of the 49ers' yards from scrimmage. Sounds like to me, and from what I've watched, is if Dallas can slow him up, they should have a very, very good chance to win this game.
But that's easier said than done.
Of course.
They gave up 180 yards in the first half to the Arizona Cardinals on the ground.
You can throw that game out, I think.
We don't throw games out. I mean, you are who you are. There's only 4 games. You can't really start throwing games out. You got that's 25% of your season thus far, so you can't really throw it out.
What I'm getting at is They were 3-0. They pulled up. They didn't take that game seriously. That's clear.
That's yeah, we talked about that. It's a tough place to go and play.
Another example
no one knows better than me. Yeah.
Another example is I can throw out the Bears' offensive success against the Broncos. It's the worst fucking defense I've ever seen. So I'm like I mentioned on the Bears recap, I'm not giving Getsy and the offense tons of love for converting against the Broncos. It's just not going to happen. I'm also not going to kill Dallas for not taking the Arizona Cardinals seriously. That's clearly what they did.
But I'm not saying let's kill Dallas, but I'm saying it did happen. And if we're talking about matchups and trying to find a part that the Niners can exploit, it's going to be the run defense.
Okay, so then I guess let me rephrase this.
What are the
let me rephrase this for you then.
Right there. Yeah.
Let me rephrase this for you then.
That's where they're weak.
Are the Niners relying too much on Christian McCaffrey?
No, that's their offensive game plan. That's what they do. They're 4-0 doing it this way, so why would you change it? And it's not like they don't have other guys that can make plays, but if no one's stopping McCaffrey right now, then why would we try to stop him ourselves?
I'm not saying don't give him the rock.
Yeah. What would you rather have them do? Are you just going to mix it up for the sake of mixing it up?
No, I'm just saying that's if the only success from your offense comes when you're getting the rock, a vast majority of it comes from getting the rock to one dude. Seems vulnerable. Seems like they could slow that up. Will Dallas said, like you said, easier said than done, but that is an option that they could focus in on. What do you think about the number being 3.5? Hasn't moved, opened at 3.5, hasn't budged, and I haven't seen even the juice move. It's been minus 110 the whole time from what I've seen. It's a really interesting spot.
Seems about right. I mean, I don't unless you believe that San Francisco's overwhelmingly better than them and they're going to come out there and spank them. It seems about right. I mean, give them the half point. Yeah. Where would you think it would be?
No, that's
I couldn't see it being any higher than 4.
Flat 3. I feel like we get a lot of action on San Francisco being at home. So 3 and a hook feels right.
There. Yeah, put the hook there.
It's I can't wait to watch this game.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, if you were to, I know we did this last week. 3.5. 3.5 sounds fair. Sounds about right.
Sunday.
Especially if you're not, like you said, especially if you're not overvaluing the Cowboys' loss in Arizona. If you're just saying that is what it is and that's just an aberration, then yeah, it's 3.5 point game. The Cowboys have been dominant other than that performance. Dominated New England, dominated the Giants. I forget who they played in the second game, but I think they dominated them too.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I'm really excited for that matchup. So
especially with the Cowboys coming off a 38-3 just drubbing of the Patriots. I mean, yeah, you can't really have them win that type of game and then give them some bullshit number going to San Francisco. Yeah. So I think it's fair.
And by the way, Arizona was moving that rock on those boys too. Arizona low-key might be nice.
I told you about Josh Downs. Rocket boy. I'll tell you about Rocket boy. He's nice.
Low-key, them boys might be all right.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz was a drop the touchdown to make that a one score game at the end. Yeah. It ends up being a 2-touchdown win, but
they're a little bit of a frisky team. You got to watch out for these Washingtons, these Arizonas, these frisky teams like that. We talked about Rivera the other day. Like, you got to watch out for these. Like, Philly almost caught themselves in a situation the other day. Fucking around.
No, Philly was in a situation.
Yeah, in a situation.
They were in a situation.
Yeah, in a situation with the Commanders. So you got to be careful with some of these frisky teams like that. And it seems like that NFC West is a tad bit frisky. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I can't wait for this game, man. My lean is obviously the 49ers. And if I had to take anything, I'd probably lay the 3.5. But I would not be surprised if the Cowboys go in there and handle business. And you know I'm not Mr. Cowboys at all.
See, I'm on the other side. If I had to pick, I'm taking the Cowboys plus 3.5. I'll take the points on prime time and let the chips fall where they may.
Disagreement. All right. Yeah, let us know how you feel. I'll lay them. I will not, but theoretically.
That's the toughest game on the board for sure.
I'm not fucking with that at all. Yeah, I told you I like Minnesota, but yeah.
Let's go over to Mike Tomlin, Big Nick, the quick, because this is our guy, and this should be everybody. Say it again.
I'm not going to apologize for winning.
This is our guy. This should be everybody's guy. No nonsense. Mike Tomlin. at home as underdogs, the trends are just through the roof. He just always takes care of business when everybody thinks his team is down. They show up in big spots. 4.5-point underdogs this week at home against Baltimore. The defense or the offense, has been absolutely atrocious. Big Nick the Quick. Listen to this stat. I actually got this from I unfortunately have to say Warren Sharp.
Oh man, Warren Dahl.
Warren Dahl, low key sometimes. Tough business. Feel like
Warren,
that.
Warren Butterknife.
If the defense holds their opponent, this is the Steelers, to below an average of 22 points or fewer, the Steelers since 2021 are 19-3-1. In short, if you play the Steelers and you score 22 or less, you're catching an L. The Steelers are 19-3-1. If the defense allows the opponent to score 22 or more since 2021, the Steelers are 1-15. That's a outright indictment against the offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Chicago Bears shit.
Yeah.
If you score 23 points, we win the game. But week in and week out, y'all show up and y'all put up 18, 19, 17 points. We're on the field all day long and can't get off. Matt Canada, the offensive court.
You got to refer to him as the much maligned Matt Canada.
The much maligned Matt Canada. Nick, in the first half this year, they've had 26 possessions. They've been in the red zone once. How is that possible? That's almost impossible, Nick.
Well,
my question for you, we know who appointed Matt Canada.
Mm-hmm.
We know who runs that team over there. Like, who runs the Bears? Who fucking knows? Who runs the Steelers? Mike Tomlin.
Very cool.
You understand me?
Yes.
Is there a spot, and I want to say this, is there a time that Mike Tomlin or is there a situation where Mike Tomlin can be on the hot seat as soon as right now and the next couple weeks here as the season goes on? Because if you look at it, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. That's 7 years ago. He's been there 17 years.
Been there a long time. Yeah.
Almost 18. I think it's 17 or 18.
He's been there since 2007. Won a Super Bowl in his second year.
Yes.
Went back to the Super Bowl in 2010. That was that game. Went back to the Super Bowl in 2010, right? Who did they lose to in the 2010 Super Bowl? Who did they lose the second one to?
They beat Arizona. And I don't know. But anyway, what I'm getting at is he's had tons of success over the years. But it's been stale over there for 7-8 years. In your world, Nick, is there any way that Mike Tomlin could be on
New Orleans Saints? Sorry, that was going to bother me.
There you go.
That was going to bother me.
Is there any way? No, the Saints beat the Colts. Who are you talking about?
Yeah, hold on. All right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, anyway. You look that up. But
is there any way that he ends up?
I'll look it up while you do that. Is there any way he's on the hot seat, Big Nick the Quick?
That was the Packers. That was the Mike McCarthy Bowl.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so no, I don't think so. Not this year, at least. I think that if only because, first off, I don't think he should be on the hot seat. I think overall he's done a good job. I think they absolutely need to move on from Matt Canada. I think the biggest issue with the Steelers has been roster construction. I don't necessarily think it's what he's putting out there. I think it's what they've been giving him. Roethlisberger was dead for years at the end. You moved on to Pickett, who was supposed to be great, but it doesn't look like that's going to be there. Obviously, if you're going to be the CEO type of head coach, you need to do CEO stuff. And the first thing that I would do is move on from Matt Canada. Even if that's your boy, even if you believe in him, the noise around the Canada situation has been so bad for so long. You got ex-players publicly calling for this guy to get fired. he's a topic of discussion every single day. You should never really hear your coordinator's name that much. So, yeah, 100% they need to move on from Matt Canada, but I don't think that Mike Tomlin should be on the hot seat. I think that when we talk about embarrassments to the organization, or when we talk about really bottoming out, or just, what we're seeing in Chicago or what we're seeing in some of the other teams around the league, that's just never happened there when they have had multiple opportunities for that to happen. And in a family-owned business like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been controlled by the same family forever, I think Tomlin is almost a part of the ownership group. Like, you don't get rid of Tomlin until he's ready to go. And I think that that's how they see their head coaches. When you've hired 3 head coaches since 1968, right? The Bears are about to be on their 3rd or 4th head coach in the last 6 or 7 years, I believe, if Flus doesn't win tomorrow. You're talking about an organization that's hired 3 head coaches in the last 50 years. You clearly look at your head coach as more than someone who's just responsible for the win-loss record. And when we talk about the win-loss record, it's not like it's really that bad. This man has never had a losing season. So absolutely, they need to fix some things on offense. You brought up all those numbers. I think the biggest number is still the one from last year. Somehow they won 9 games throwing 12 passing touchdowns in the year 2022 in the NFL, where it is designed to air it out. That's not by mistake. That is 100% Mike Tomlin. So I guess the question you really want to be asking is, will this team be better off hiring another coach, bottoming out, and rebuilding that way, as opposed to going with the Mike Tomlin status quo of, we're never going to be less than 9-8, but we might not ever win another Super Bowl, or unless I get a guy that can win games for me. So, I mean, I can't go there yet, man. I think that's a little too hot for me. Based on what we've seen around the NFL, I think Mike Tomlin is still a great coach. And they were 12-4 in 2020.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm just trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate
but
here.
I get it.
Where
I get it. The offensive situation is bad, though. Again, 12 passing touchdowns in 2022 when the league is designed for you to air it out. You can't even guard guys anymore as Sauce Gardner. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you really can't even defend receivers anymore. It is really set up to score points and put up wild passing numbers. And the fact that they only threw 12 touchdowns last year is remarkable. But even more remarkable is that you won 9 games while doing so. And I think that is why you keep Mike Tomlin. Like, we trust this guy so much to right the ship, right? That if we do get someone in the building that we do believe in, or if we do get him a quarterback, or if we do fix the offense, there's no one else we'd rather have. And again, we can't underscore how important it is to these old school family business, the Maras, the Hallises, the Rooneys. They just don't want to be embarrassed. Do not embarrass us, right? Do not embarrass us. Don't have us be the topic of the conversation. Don't have us be headline every day about something stupid, right? Yeah. Don't have us be a clown show, even if you have clowns in the show, which they've had, right? They had AB and Levy on. You have had clowns in the show, but it's never been a clown show, right? Roethlisberger was a clown, among other things, right? So you've navigated us through all these situations that are potentially embarrassing and awful, and you still won ball games despite. Come on, man. We know that if we get this right, we got you. The real questions at Pittsburgh should be pointed at the whoever's in charge of personnel, as far as drafting guys, signing guys, and bringing in talent to compete. Because the way that I look at it, this has been one of the most overachieving rosters in the NFL for the past 10 years. If we're being completely honest, he should get an extension. Forget a hot seat. He should get an extension. He should get a piece of the pie. He should get 5%.
Listen, I don't know. Listen, this is the thing. It all depends on where
Name another roster that's done more with less.
Well, listen, it all depends on where you're at as a fan and where you're at with support.
And they're still 2-2 somehow this year. So, I mean, the guy just can't fall under 500 no matter what happens.
But are you – I guess the question is, hey, it's been 17 years. You got us a couple Super Bowls. We appreciate that. But we've been flailing in the wind. We've been grinding. That has to fall at Tomlin's feet a little bit. And it all depends on – similarly to the Bears when they fired Lovey. We could have kept Lovey. And at the time, I'll be completely honest, at the time – I was leaning, let's move on from Lovey. We were just a middling football team. We weren't getting over the top. We weren't winning 12, 13 games consistently like I wanted us to do. And I felt like we needed to focus more on offense. It was the standard Bears teams that defense was winning us all the games, and we needed to figure out a way to start scoring points to pair with that defense. And Lovey wasn't going to do that for us.
Yeah, Lovey won 29 games his last 3 years in Chicago. You would think that would keep you a job in the NFL.
Right.
For sure.
So, but since Lovey's left,
it's done great for us. Yeah.
Since Lovey's left, the team has been a literal disaster
And an embarrassment.
And an embarrassment. So you need to, as a fan base, and that's why I think this is a really good conversation. That's why I wanted to bring it up about Tomlin. Either you come in knowing things are going to be done the right way, and if you can get the right quarterback, and you can get the discourse around the Bears now is if you get the right quarterback, it doesn't matter.
Dog, do you know what I heard them say yesterday on Get Up? This is what they suggested. They said the Bears should get picks 1 and 2, draft Caleb. Why am I left? Caleb Williams and Drake May, and that way we can ruin 2 quarterbacks in 3 years instead of waiting 6 years to do so. Sounds sick.
So this is where we're at, right? That's kind of where you need to decide if you want to keep a guy like Tomlin, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan or not, because instead of the discourse being, if we got the right players, I don't know if this dude could coach him. It's the opposite with Tomlin, where if we got him the right guys, I believe we could win. That's where you want to determine if you want to keep a coach or not. That's your prerogative. That's how you envision it. But it is tough to be middle of the pack for year in, year out, and that's exactly what the Steelers have done. Would a change be better for your organization? It's a very tough situation to determine.
You got to ask yourself if you believe that Tomlin's the problem or not. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. If you believe that the problem, if the Steelers have a Mike Tomlin problem, then you have to move on. If you're just getting into the change for the sake of change, that is not how this organization does business. And if you look at them and you look at again, I think that they're probably an organization that takes a very long view, meaning they're looking 30 years ahead from now and probably 50 years back and saying, look, we are the model franchise in the NFL, right? We might not have, I think, do they have the most Super Bowls? Either them or the Patriots that have the most Super Bowls, right? We are the NFL's model franchise. We're a model of consistency. We're a model. We're the standard. Our ownership, the Rooney Rule and all this stuff. So we're not going to change how we're doing business because the rest of the league is changing as far as firing coaches this quick, right? Again, especially when our guy's not losing. He's not losing. That's the other thing. I think if a few years,
he's not winning though either, Nick.
Yeah, but I think if you have a few 5 and 11s and 4, Lovey had some 7 and 9s and some 5 and 11s and some things you could point to that said, hey, there are some peaks and valleys. This is just kind of a flat road with some peaks, but there's no valley. That's the thing. There's no valley. So, and if you're an organization that, appreciates stability, you really, 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 really value that there are no valleys. And I think that we can't, I mean, clearly that's how they do business. They haven't fired, you said it yesterday, they have not fired a coach since 1967. Have not fired a coach since 1967. We see guys getting fired. There's 5 guys that can be fired next week.
Yeah, 68.
68.
They fired a guy. Listen to this. The Steelers haven't fired a coach since 1968. Then they went Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, then Tomlin.
Noll was there from 68 to 92. That's 4 decades.
Yes. Now listen to this. The next year, so they fired, I don't even know who this dude is, Austin. I don't know his first name. But Chuck Knowles was then hired in 69. And then the very next year, they drafted Terry Bradshaw. Yeah. So that's very fortunate. Also, I was just looking at some of these stats. I want you to listen to this. I think this just shows you how different the game is, how far it's come. And if you win Super Bowls, people tend to forget things. Terry Bradshaw in the first Super Bowl, Joe Gilliam led that team in passing that year. I don't even know who that is, to be completely honest with you. They won the Super Bowl. Bradshaw came back for the playoffs. Listen to these box scores for Terry Bradshaw in the divisional game. They won 32-14. Terry Bradshaw was Terry Bradshaw was 12 of 19 for 203 and a touchdown. It's actually not bad.
It's a good day at the office.
Go to the conference championship game. Terry Bradshaw in the 1974 AFC championship game was 8 of 17 for 95 yards, a touchdown, and a sack. Franco Harris had 29 attempts, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then if you go to the Super Bowl, Terry Bradshaw beat the Vikings 16-6. This is how nasty that Pittsburgh Steelers defense was. Terry Bradshaw in that Super Bowl, 9 of 14, 96 yards, and a touchdown. So once the years go by, if you get the Super Bowls, people don't really remember like how well you played, or were you the quarterback for that Super Bowl team? I was.
Right, I was there.
Go look at Troy Aikman's numbers.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah,
they are extremely mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
He has 3 Super Bowls though. He's a Hall of Famer. He was not the biggest factor, let's say that,
Emmitt Smith
on those teams. So
yeah.
It's always interesting to go back and look at how much the game has changed.
And that's how the game was played, though. Because wasn't that always the Marino thing? Marino wanted to spread all over the place, but that's not how the league was played.
Yeah, Marino was ahead of his time.
Marino was not want to throw. Like that's how you win, Dan. That's how I want to throw.
Marino right now.
Put up numbers, yeah.
Marino right now is Justin Herbert basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like
he is Justin Herbert. A whole lot of numbers with no winning. Which brings me to my next question.
What is the next question?
Speaking of hot seats, I'm going to give you a couple teams.
Yeah.
And I want you to let me know if this guy is on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Brandon Staley in Los Angeles. Should he be on the hot seat, and is he on the hot seat? Pulled out a win this weekend against the Raiders. I truly believe had they not won this game, this guy would have been fired. But where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, the seat has been hot, and it's going to be hot week to week. He's in a very tough situation. Every time he wins a game, everyone says Justin Herbert's carrying his water. When he loses, they're typically in spectacular fashion, and he's an idiot. That's the discourse around him. It's if you somehow the Chargers find themselves in the end of the game situation every single week.
It's been like this for years.
It's been like this for years. And he's been the coach.
Yeah.
Now, if you go watch, I had the Chargers minus 6.5. So I was very interested in the end of that game last week. It played out just like it did in week 4 or week 3, where he went for it and didn't get it in his own territory. Which is fine. I have no problem with going for it to end the game. You better have the right play call locked and loaded, and you better execute it. Also, to end the game, Asante Samuel Jr. picks the ball off with 2:25 left. Raiders are driving, and he yells at Asante Samuel to get down and slide.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get that at all.
His awareness.
Yeah, but I didn't understand why. I didn't get that.
No, because you would tell him to slide if it was under 2 minutes.
Yeah,
and they didn't have any timeouts.
But it wasn't, and they did.
But it wasn't, and they did. That's what I'm saying. So his awareness isn't there. It's almost. It feels a lot like when it's game time, everything is moving too fast and a little too big. And Herbert continues to bail him out of big spots. So
now Staley, a defensive guy also, right? And we know Sean says if you have the elite quarterback, you need to pair him with the elite offensive guy. Staley has never been an offensive guy. Linebackers coach, linebackers course, defensive coordinator. So guy with a defensive background.
But yeah, that's also like a reason why he should get packed up more times than not, because his defense is getting exposed all the time.
Yeah, defense not great.
He's a defensive. We say it all the time, Nick. A guru. He's a defensive guru with a bad defense.
Right.
Like how does that work?
It doesn't work.
Eberflus, defensive guy, but his D's are terrible.
Right.
So how does that work?
The perfect example would be like Fangio, who was the defensive guy. His defenses were great, offenses were trash, but you could never say, "Hey Vic, you're a defensive guy, your defensive slug. Like, no,
Right.
I'm over here on that end of the ball. I can't help you with the whole play calling aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
Fangio, that Dolphins D is looking very suspect
Yep.
to start the year here. So, yeah, I mean, it's week to week for him. I think if they do another middling year and they make another mistake in the playoffs or to close it out, I don't see how you can bring him back. Just because these years with Herbert early on are so important.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. Throwing curveball. His seat was very hot coming into last year, and then they obviously
I don't think it's hot.
Well.
I think he proved last year his offensive mind when clicking, when healthy, when the weapons are there, they could do some things. This also goes into if you have to really trust him to pick the next quarterback too, because Kirk is done there after this year.
you think that's over with?
I think that's over with. I think they are clearly resetting. If you trust him to start that thing over and figure out what to do with Justin Jefferson, because if I'm Justin Jefferson, I'm looking around like, hey, I'm not rebuilding shit.
Yeah, right.
I'm the best. I'm the top 2 wide receiver in the entire league.
I don't want a new quarterback, or I don't want a quarterback. I see what it's like. I see my boy Devontae over there, and what's it called? My boys in Atlanta. Like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, get me to Josh Allen. Get me to Patrick Mahomes. Get me to a guy that could get me the rock, because I'm too good. I'm not about to burn up 2 years in my early prime. He's not even in his prime. He's like early prime.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't think he's on the hot seat, but they're getting ready to go through a rebuild, and you got to trust him to rebuild it. So that's up to them and their organization. I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat. I think he's done a pretty good job in Minnesota.
So you're good. You're keeping him around. You're gonna let him see this through. You think he's earned that right to see it through. Yeah. I'm not gonna go Bengals. I don't think he's on the hot seat.
Not Stefanski. What's his name?
Kevin Stefanski over in
that's Cleveland.
Zach Taylor.
No, hold on.
Yeah, that's his name.
That is his name.
Yeah, Zach Taylor.
Yeah, Zach Taylor. No,
yeah, Zach Taylor. No, I think he's fine. I don't think it's his fault that
Joe
Burrow got hurt. Yeah, he's fine. He took that team to the Super Bowl.
He's in a great situation.
Sean Payton. Give me two legends, and then we'll move on. Sean Payton.
Too much money at stake. No, his seat ice cold.
We locked and loaded in there.
Yeah, his seat's ice cold. It's his first year. Yeah. No, his seat's ice cold.
You think he can feel his seat, or the perks have rendered him?
Nick, listen, I can't believe we're not at the stage where we're asking about hot seats in week 5 of your first year, are we?
I mean, they just fired a coach after 5 weeks last year.
Well, I mean, it's a very
that guy didn't give up. They've given up 150 points in 4 weeks.
Hackett was an extreme. The worst thing that happened to Hackett was that first game was on national TV.
Yes, and then put a microscope under every single bad mistake he made after that.
If that game is not on national TV, he's probably I'm not even kidding. He's probably still the coach of the Broncos.
Fair enough.
That's how massive that mistake and decision was on national TV. We talk about national TV games all the time. He would probably still have a shot at a second year if it wasn't for that amplification on national television. So yeah, man. Sean Payton, first year, 5 weeks. Chilling. Come on. Yeah.
All right, nice. Last one, and I think there's zero chance there's actually negative chance this would ever happen in season, but I do believe off season we make a change. I want to know your thoughts on Mr. Belichick and the Patriots. And the reason I say this, I don't believe the Belichick-Kraft relationship has ever been great. I think the Belichick-Brady relationship was great. No.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Kraft-Brady. Kraft-Brady relationship was great. I do not believe that the Kraft-Belichick relationship has ever been great. You can go back to the Jimmy Garoppolo saga for all that. Obviously, this team is not performing at all. Since Tom Brady's left, it's been a disaster. He's the GM. He's the head coach. He runs the entire organization. So from a personnel perspective, this team is not good. And obviously, the product they're putting on the field is not good. Clearly, we don't need to mention his accolades. 6-time Super Bowl champion, been to 8 of them. Arguably the greatest coach in NFL history. But something's got to change. This team looks rudderless. They've destroyed whatever was of Mac Jones. Destroyed. Inexplicably didn't give him a coordinator in year 2, which just seemed like a Belichick for the sake of being Belichick move. Where are you? Do you think he comes back next year based on where this is going right now?
It depends on how it's angled, right? I think if he wants to coach, I think he'll probably be back next year.
He wants to coach. I don't think he wants to retire.
I guess there's two questions. Should he be back?
Yeah, that's my question. That's what I'm asking.
Probably not. Will he be back? Most likely.
The Brady versus Belichick debate is over, correct? Can we go ahead and just make sure we're I'd like go hand in hand. But
I'm actually dumbfounded that you are even saying that because you were always
I've
Belichick guy.
I've never been a Belichick. I've always said forever that Tom Brady is the best football player of all time. I've never said that. Even when they were trash, that year that they won the Super Bowl, when we had the studio, all year you're like, this Patriots team is trash. I go, these guys are going to win.
I'm pretty positive we argued. I was arguing about how Belichick continues to get 30 points hung on his head for being a defensive mastermind, and Brady
my argument was Tom Brady,
and Brady scoring 42, and you were trying to tell me that
I've never picked a coach over a player. It's just that it's not possible, and it's not in my DNA.
Yeah, okay,
it's not in my DNA to pick a coach over the player. I can tell you that right now. I may have given a lot of support to Brad, because, like I say, he's the best coach of all time. But to me, it's always been Tom Brady. Everything we talk about with look, if we're being honest here, everything we talk about with quarterbacks, all that, whatever it is, you just want Tom Brady. Period. Point blank. So that I would never go against that. But where are you? If you're Kraft, you're sitting up there in Foxborough. You don't really like the guy to begin with. All right. He pretty much after the Brady situation, he said, "Trust me, I got this. We can get rid of Tom. We'll be just fine." Since then, it's been a disaster. If you remember, after Brady left, they also splurged in free agency, gave Jonnu Smith $50 million, grabbed Hunter Henry, grabbed a bunch of other guys. Those haven't worked out. The Mac Jones is actually regressing as a quarterback. I thought
if you go back and look at the decisions in first of all, the drafting,
drafted terribly,
has been horrendous.
Well, let's go back. He drafted Sony Michel over Lamar Jackson.
Yes, he did.
If we really want to go back, if you were really angling to get Brady out, you knew Brady was going to be out, you drafted Sony Michel over Lamar Jackson. Check the tape. It's there. When your quarterback was 42.
The drafting has been horrendous. The free agency money has been horrendous. They haven't won a single thing since Tom Brady left.
Yep.
It's probably time to go for Bill Belichick.
So you're moving
Pack it up.
Yeah.
This is all. It's a very interesting situation too, because Kraft is old. You want to talk about like resetting, like moving on from Tomlin. You move on from Belichick. That's a big time reset, and the guy following him is in an extremely tough situation, just like the guy that would be following Tomlin. It's kind of like, hey man, as you go into these twilight years, are you okay with your team? I guess winning 8 games, but they might not even win that many.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think they're trash.
Yeah,
and you can really point to Bill Belichick. Like, again, you have a quarterback who had a solid rookie year. So your decision to go into year 2 is to give him a special teams coach and a defensive coordinator. It was Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, right? Those were his offensive coordinators last year. 2 fired guys.
Joe Judge, a defensive guy and a special teams guy.
And were awful head coaches when they both got their opportunities.
Yeah, it's a mistake. He's been making mistakes. So yeah, I would say his seat's not hot, but I don't think he's a top tier coach in the NFL anymore.
Would you hire him is the real question
at the moment. Yeah.
If the Patriots moved on from Bill Belichick and the Bears hired him, where you at?
No, what? No.
No, you wouldn't want Bill?
No, man. I want an offensive guy.
So you'd be mad if Bill Belichick was the Bears' next hire?
Yes.
Wow.
Why? Dude, his reign is over.
It's over, yeah.
We're looking forward. Yeah, of course I would be upset because it'd be a patchwork. You know what Bill Belichick would be? It's fucking John Fox plus. Right?
Yeah.
It would just be like a middling.
Unlikable John Fox.
It'd be a guy that would come in and like fix things, but the team they'd have less penalties, that's for sure. But like they're not winning a ton of games. So yeah, no, I'm straight off that. All right, let's get over to the quick bets. Give me your NFL Week 5 bets, and then we got some NBA Media Day clips to go over, and then we'll get out of here.
Yep.
I'll start. Big Nick the Quick is looking through. I like the Lions, Carolina Panthers under 45. Bryce Young has been absolutely horrendous. Sometimes in life, you're just a little too small. He's a little too small, it looks like. The size does matter for him. He's been having a really tough go of it. I got some numbers here from I broke this under down yesterday. Hold on. I might actually still have it up. I'm fucking around.
Oh, you're good. I'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. But either way, Bryce Young's at the bottom of the league in yards per air yards was like 2.6 versus Minnesota. He's not pushing the ball downfield. Meanwhile, for example, CJ Stroud's number 3 in the league with yards per completion at 8. He's only behind Tua and Brock Purdy. Bryce Young is down towards the bottom of the league. Now, the Detroit Lions are only giving up 60.8 rushing yards a game on the defensive side of the ball. That's the best in the NFL. The Detroit Lions are top 5 in offense and DVOA, top 5 in defense and DVOA. The Detroit Lions are fucking locked in overall, really good football team in the trenches on both sides of the ball as well. I don't see the Panthers being able to run the rock. I don't see Bryce Young having a ton of success through the air in Detroit with Hutchinson and those boys coming off the edge. I don't see Carolina scoring more than 10, 13 points, tops. So I like the under in this spot. Detroit takes care of business. I see like a 27-10, 27-13 type of game. So I'm going to go under 45. It's my pick for NFL Week 5.
All right. I think I told you this earlier in the week. I am leaning very heavily on the Vikings +4. I think the only reason this number looks this way is the Chiefs are getting a lot of respect for being the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's down to 4?
Yeah, it's 4.
Wow.
Chiefs getting a lot of respect just because they have been the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you look at the Chiefs offense this year,
Still
they
some
have
5s out there, low-key.
Yeah, they have failed. That's on MGM. Yeah, MGM is never is a little off. But for me, Chiefs are getting overvalued here in this spot. I think that offense has struggled. They struggled against the Jets. And I know the Jets have an elite defense, but a lot of those mistakes are self-imposed mistakes. You're talking about drops. You're talking about big penalties. They've just looked out of rhythm. Barely escaped with that win against New York. Obviously dominated the Bears, but we know the Bears defense is trash. So that's the only game that offense has looked right in. I think Minnesota is in kind of a must-win spot, if we're being honest. So I think them catching points at home, I look for a big get-right game for the Minnesota Vikings coming off of a win. I think that this is a very, very, very dangerous spot for a Kansas City Chiefs team that has not looked good to start the year.
Toughest place to play in the league, some are saying.
Yep.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
very loud in there.
Yep.
They're up there with Arrowhead and type of home field advantage. So yeah.
And they need the win. They need the win. Again, if you look at the Chiefs' offensive output, put up 23 against the Jets, put up 17 against the Jaguars, and 20 against the Lions. So this thing has not been humming like you would expect it to. I think that number is where it is because of the respect people have for the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you're watching the ball games like we like to talk about, that receiving core, his playmakers, they're not quite on the right page yet. Now, if this was week 15, week 16, a completely different story, right? I think similar to last year, he's going to get in sync with these guys and everything's going to be fine. But to start the year, it has been a bit rocky for them. I know Kelsey was out week 1. Obviously, he's back, but he had a huge drop on Sunday too. So things just look a little bit off. So I think Minnesota is in a good spot to take advantage of that. Yeah, almost to the point where I would take a look at the money line. I don't know what you can see it at anywhere else. It's 165 on MGM, but you can probably get a much better number somewhere else.
Oh, you're going against your boy. Best to ever pick it up.
He is the best to ever pick it up. But again, I like to talk about it, man. One thing that Sean has really pick it up. Bet the spot. I've tried to drop in the past. I would never advocate for betting on Kirk Cousins. You know this. But I have become more aware of just kind of really looking at the spot and taking my biases out of it. And I've been a better man because of it. So I really like the spot there for the Vikings.
All right. Let's move over to the NBA. NBA Media Day early this week. The NBA is back, baby. The association. I got a couple clips I'm going to play. And we're going to talk about these teams. Big Nick the Quick. How are you feeling about the NBA? What's your favorite storyline coming in before I jump into some of these clips? Because I'll give you some. We now have Drew Holidays in Boston. Incredible. Harden still hasn't showed up.
Of course.
Jokic is back.
Yep.
They kept a lot of their guys. They lost
Brown.
They lost Jeff Green. They lost Bruce Brown.
Everybody loses Jeff Green every year, so that's okay.
But they still got, their core and Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Jokic, KCP. So they got a lot of guys. Aaron Gordon's still there as well.
They still got like their top 6 guys.
Yeah. Brown is still there.
Which you really don't see on championship turnover. I mean, the way that they've structured their roster and the fact that they have paid guys, but the way that they've kind of structured these contracts, you really don't see being able to retain your top 5 or 6 guys from year to year off of a championship roster. Obviously, there's going to be some guys that go out and get paid, but you would expect guys like who's the dude from Kansas, white boy they brought in last year?
Yeah, Brown
to fill in some of those other roles of some of those guys that depart, and you hope that your young guys step up. And that's a team that has drafted well. They've always drafted well and been able to find guys that contribute quality minutes to them. Even if you go back to like a Bones Highland, who I know they moved off of, but it wasn't because of his basketball play. They've just always been able to kind of find those late round gems. So when you're in this mode right here,
Mike Malone is him.
Exactly. So when you're in this mode, this is important. This is where the Bucks failed. All right. When you're a contender, you better get really good at drafting between 25 and 30 and finding guys who can give you 15 to 20 minutes and play a role in your team. You can't be bullshitting picks on Marquise Teague and people like that who aren't going to help you and ever crack the rotation. It's real. When you have to bring in a Brown, right? I don't know where they drafted him at, probably somewhere in the 20s, and hope that by the end of the season, he's a valuable as a rotation guy for you, or else you miss. You can't just be like, oh, we're going to take a guy at 27 if he doesn't hit whatever, because you're paying a lot of money to that top half of your roster.
Right.
So you better fill it out with those young, inexpensive guys in the back end that can play. And Denver has always done a good job of that.
Phoenix, add Beal.
Yeah.
And then backfill it with a ton of dudes in a trade for cheap. The big worry, shout out Joe Johnson. No.
ISO Joe?
No, not Joe Johnson. Who's the GM over at Phoenix?
James Johnson.
James Jones. James Johnson. Joe Johnson. James Jones. Shout out James Jones, champ. He filled out the roster with a bunch of different guys. Just added a ton of different rotational players. That team all of a sudden looks deep. Got rid of Aiden. It's very, very interesting out in Phoenix. Luka, Kyrie, 2.0. They run that back. I'm
interested.
Yeah, talk to me.
Well, I watched their media day. I watched select players' interviews on media day, guys who I was interested in just hearing what they were talking about, and Kyrie was number one for me. I just wanted to see his vibe and his mood coming in. I will tell you this: Kyrie's loose. Kyrie's happy to be there. The noise seems quiet. Now, again, I know this is one of the moodiest players that we've ever seen in the NBA as far as one little thing can, spark a chain reaction and negative events for him. But as far as how you would want Kyrie to come into the season, he seems like he's just in a good place from a basketball perspective. I don't think that helps them defensively, which is where their biggest issue is. But as far as just like Kyrie being a distraction, or is he bought in? Does he want to be there? I truly believe that he's happy in Dallas and he's found a place where they accept him. And it sounds like as an organization and Kid as a coach is going to kind of let him do his thing. So I felt just like the vibe coming from Kyrie was pretty chill, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't like it's seen the last couple of years. That was one that I was really interested in, though, because Kyrie is going to tell you in an interview if he feels like talking what's really going on, and it was pretty straightforward. A lot of basketball talk, a lot of this and that talk, type of things you want to hear. Again, does it help them defensively? I don't know, but
Luka looks
you can
slim.
Handle that issue with him. Yeah, Luka looks slim.
That's the only thing I needed to see.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. What'd you do?
Well,
he played basketball all summer.
He's done that before too, though.
Yeah,
I saw him in the slow jersey, looking fit as hell, and then 3 weeks later show up like, bro, what are we doing here? So he looked good.
Can he maintain it throughout the course of the season, though? Last year it was kind of the same thing. He came in all right last year and somehow got progressively out of shape by the end of the year.
Well, no, remember he got injured.
He got injured and came
back. He was out for like 10 or almost 2 weeks.
Came back from injury hefty.
Bro, he showed up from the injury. He'd easily put on 10 pounds.
Yeah. Fact.
And I was like, man, what are we doing here? So
yeah.
that's Luka's my guy. I think he's a dog. Does he complain a little bit too much? Sure. But his game and his attitude is phenomenal. Sure. I love Luka Doncic. So I want him to come in top tier shape. We talk about it all the time with Embiid. Go back to Embiid. When he really started locking in, it was because he got in shape and took his body very seriously.
Well, you want to talk about it in shape? I watched Giannis's interview. I watched Giannis media. Hey, Giannis may have put on 10 pounds of muscle. He looks absolutely fucking
no
massive.
way.
Listen, man. He
couldn't have.
He looks better. I was watching him give the interview. He looks better. Maybe he expects to play a little bit down low, a little bit more. He's like, "Hey, Damon's here. I'm not gonna.
I'm sure he's gonna be baby hooking.
Yeah, he might be baby hooking like Kareem on him.
Yeah, right.
He might turn into the most lethal downhill roller you've ever seen in the pick and roll. I mean, dude, listen, man. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The options are unlimited for the Giannis and Dame two-man. Yeah. Like you couldn't really pick two better guys to play together in a pick and roll if you're Griffin. So I mean, I just thought he looked phenomenal. Whatever. Maybe he didn't put on any weight coming in, but he looked phenomenal. I'll say that. He looked like he can go play a game tomorrow. He's ready to go. So I listened to his interview a little bit. His press conference was kind of interesting. They asked him why he didn't commit to Milwaukee and why he didn't sign that extension that was there last year. And he said, "Why would I? Right? It wasn't the right time." He said, and he goes, "Of course I want to be Milwaukee Buck, right? But I don't want to be a Milwaukee Buck if they're not winning. I love Milwaukee Bucks. I'll always be a Milwaukee Buck. But when they're not winning, why would I want to be here? You know how he sucks too. That's exactly what he said, which I thought was very. It was almost like so honest. Like, look, yeah, I want to be here, but if these boys ain't making the right decisions, I'm not coming." And it tells you where he was going into the summer, that he did not like the present roster construction. Because if he felt that was the team that he wanted to go with the next few years, he would have signed it, no problem. They had to make that Dame move. So shout out to them for recognizing that, making the move. Because if he's saying that out in the press conference, that's the same thing that he was telling them in the offseason. Hey, we cannot roll these same boys out here again. So I thought that was really telling for him. And he was also pretty much saying, "Hey, I'm rich. The extension's going to be there from one person to another." So I'm not too pressed about that at all. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then obviously I listened to the Bulls. I listened to DeMar. I listened to Zach, which I thought was interesting as well. Zach really talked a lot about pace, like a lot about pace. And I put this on Twitter. I don't think he was being critical of the coaching staff, but he was definitely putting it out there that his preference is that this team plays with more pace, and that's going to lead to more success from him. So.
And who's running the pace?
William Donovan.
No. But who I'm talking about? Okay, who?
On
the floor.
Point guard. They asked him about the point guard thing. He said, "Whoever we got, we're good."
Whoever's on the floor, huh?
Yeah, he said, "Whoever we got, we're good." Between Javon,
Kobe, and Javon Carter.
Kobe.
Yeah. Those are the guys that are running the pace.
Those are your point guards. You're gonna be pushing up the floor.
Right.
Yeah. Carter, good shooter. I've never really seen him as a push the pace guy. Kobe White can't dribble, and Io is more of a defensive.
Javon Carter should not be handling a rock.
Yeah, he's not. That's not what he's there for.
Good
player,
about?
And we're not disrespecting
like
Javon Carter at all.
West Virginia Mountaineer.
Carter. Yeah,
hard nose.
Javon Carter's good player.
Shout out, he can fill it up. Shout out Javon Carter.
Shoots the three. Good player.
But
he cannot be your starting. He can't be your.
If he's out there running the fast break.
That's an issue.
For 35 minutes a night, you're not winning any games.
So you don't care. So you don't care. No point guard, no nothing for Sean.
Like I want to run the hey Saquon, how do you feel about running the hurry up offense? I love it. We should be in 2-minute drill all the time, but your quarterback is Nathan Peter. Like, that doesn't mean nothing to me, right? So like, hey, we should get out and run. Like, yeah, we definitely should. And that's what we had success doing when Lonzo Ball was getting out and running.
And do you think it's funny because Zach isn't the type of guy who can handle a rock like that? It's like, hey, if you were a better ball handler, maybe we could.
No, I'm not going to say that because that's not his game. Never been his game. He's not
he's
offense
not
orchestrator.
He's not the orchestrator.
Yeah, so
not a maestro.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we need to get out. You know what that's code.
I want to run.
Me?
Y'all got to run with me.
Yo, you know what that? Yeah, exactly. You know what that's code for. Let's get out and run and get me the ball.
Yes.
A little quicker where I'm not catching the ball with 12 seconds on the shot clock face up.
Yeah. Which is not my game.
I would have a lot more success if we got me the ball in the wing in the break or with 18, 17 seconds on the clock.
Which is the anti-DeMar, because DeMar would rather work down the clock, get into his spot, take his time, and then get his shot off, which ultimately affects pace.
So, yeah, it's interesting comment. And he would be more successful in the break.
Of course.
He'd get more space to operate, but we don't have a guy that could get out in space and run. Maybe Ayo can do it. Like Kobe White played a lot better, but he's out there trying to score.
Yeah, he's trying to score. He's not a distributor.
Yeah, so stay tuned on that. But the Miami Heat had a very eventful break. And here's Tyler Hero. He has been, you've seen the memes. Every single time Miami's talked about in a trade piece, he's the highlight. And then it comes out that said team that was trying to trade doesn't think Hero's good enough, basically. Like, I'm not, the Hero's the highlight of the trade. I'm straight. Yeah. Here's Tyler Hero on those teams that don't necessarily want him being on the trade block. Check the body language. Listen to what he's saying. Here's Tyler Hero.
I mean, I'm not going to say too much. I know my value. I'm just excited to hoop. For the teams that didn't want me, that's on you. And the teams that do want me, you'll see why you want me.
You think about the fact that, I mean, those Trailblazers still have to play the Miami Heat on the basketball court this year a couple times. And for you, knowing not just what the fans were saying, but potentially, if reports are right, what the front office out there thought of you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you're not out here circling dates on the calendar of the NBA schedule. It's 82 of them, but how excited are you for that matchup?
Yeah, it's cool. I'm ready to just play the best. Portland ain't the best, so I'm not really worried about Portland.
He said, I know you're not circling dates. They definitely are.
Yeah. Listen, first off, also point this when we want to talk about physique. I wonder if they asked him to lean out because he looks very, very, very lean compared to how he's looked the past 2 seasons. And maybe that's just because of how he's sitting and the angling and all that. But he does. In his face, he looks a lot leaner. He's always been
little, though.
He's always been little, but he looks a lot leaner in his face. He looks skeletorish in his face. So I wonder if they were like,
"It's been a rough couple months. You didn't know he was about that. He almost had to move out. He almost went from South Beach to Portland, but he was going to be sick.
He was like, he's about to be sick. Like, baby, going to Portland. Like, where? Like, no. Yeah, listen, man. Hey, as far as handling it, he couldn't handle it any better, especially just being Tyler Hero, and we know what kind of guy he is. And this is a guy who we know thrives off of kind of being that underdog, right? This is a guy who is you can look at him and tell his entire hoops career, guys have been talking shit just based on the way he carries them, how he chooses to express himself, the fact that, you know, he puts a little bit more whatever in his walk.
He's a
right?
fucking white, let's be honest, he's a white two guard.
He's a white two guard from suburban Milwaukee who, anyways. Yeah. I told you when I saw this and I put it up, I said 30 points per game loading. He's been disrespected. Jimmy's supposed to be his boy. Jimmy was trying to trade him all heavy, summer.
Though, but yes.
Know, but everybody in the organization unanimously was trying to trade him, including Jimmy Butler all summer, to the point where Jimmy's publicly bummed out when he's not traded for Dame Lillard, instead of being like, yeah, we're just going to rock with whatever we want or with whatever we got right here. So if you're Tyler Hero, yeah, your back's against the wall, man. I mean, I think that's when you're going to get your best basketball out of him. I think Tyler Hero thrives when it's not sweet. And that's a situation for him where don't think those will go away either. He's not safe until February, right? Like, whatever the Miami Heat wants to do, he's going to be the center of any trade they want to make. So just because Dame Lillard is out of the equation right now doesn't mean that Tyler Hero's trade rumors are going to stop happening, especially when you're looking at the fact that they did make that finals run without him last year in the playoffs. So I think he's still going to hear that noise. All he can do is go out there and control what he can control. We know he can play. We've seen him play high-level basketball. This is a former 6th man of the year. So I'm excited to see what he can do for them this year, coming back on what I think is going to be like a revenge type situation.
Man,
they tried to knock him out the frame, man.
Shout out all my guys over at Action Network. A lot of talk about Miami missing the playoffs in its entirety. Maybe play in. Maybe they get the play in, but don't get to the playoffs.
2 games for missing it last year, right?
Yeah, I will say this too, Jimmy.
And they did improve the roster.
I just can't see how Jimmy continues to hold up.
Yeah. Well, you saw it. They barely did at the end of the year last year.
He towards the end of the year, multiple years in a row now, he's broken down. Lowry's not interested. They tried to move him as well. He's also getting old. Bam is a monster. But they did all that. They did do that all last year without Hero.
Yeah.
But they lose Strus. Caleb Martin, maybe he shows up just like he has been. But they lose Strus. They lose Vincent. It's a really interesting team, man. Because they still do have the best coach in the NBA, right? So
yeah, but this is what happens when you are like so. I guess I'm losing the word here, but so transparently after one player all summer is that you miss out on every other opportunity to upgrade your roster.
And it's a bad vibe too.
It's a bad vibe, but even beside that, you were so focused on we're getting Dame because he wants to come here that you didn't pursue anybody else. So they didn't upgrade this roster at all. I don't know what moves.
But let me ask you this, Nick.
Yeah, that's a bad position. And we showed you my man who's like, Pat Riley, like, hey.
But let me ask you this. What do you do as a franchise? If Dame comes out and says, hey, I want to go to the Heat, you gotta
have a plan B. You have to have a
No, bro. There ain't no plan B. It's plan A and plan A only. And you better try to go make it work. If you don't make it work, you're in a tough spot. But
they kept telling you we don't like your package.
Historically, yeah, that's true too.
You knew
historically in the NBA, though, when a guy says, hey, man, I want out of here and I want to go here, it's been done.
But
shout out Joe Cronin
have 4 years left on his contract.
That shit doesn't mean anything. I don't want to hear that shit.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It means nothing.
If it's James Harden, yeah, because he's not going to show up. You knew that Portland knew that Dame was showing up, especially now that we know that apparently Dame tried to rescind that trade offer, right? If you read the story in The Athletic, he put it out there. Once it was clear that shit wasn't really moving, he's like, hey, I'm cool coming back. And the GM was like, no, you're gone. I mean.
Wait, Cronin said that?
Yeah. You didn't see that? This came out in The Athletic right after he was traded. It's a huge story. He put out that they wanted to get traded.
Yeah.
And essentially the GM was like, now that you've said that, we're not going back. You're getting moved.
Huh. I have to read that. I did not know that.
Yes. So that really kills some leverage. And I just think that if Miami didn't have the best package, they don't have the best package.
But what are you supposed to do as Miami? Be like, Dame's interested. We'll see.
I don't know what you don't want to do. I don't know what you don't want to do is find yourself here in the position that you're in right now, where you took a team that struggled last year in the regular season. I guess they're 44-38. So
no, they struggled. They struggled in the regular season.
Right? You look at the numbers behind those 44 wins.
They were terrible last year, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Atlanta was just worse.
Right. And you just choose to not upgrade that roster at all. Again, you actually just got worse. You lost Strus, who was very important to what you do. You need shooters. Now you're banking on Caleb Martin again stepping up and being better than he was last year. You also lost Gabe Vincent. He's gone.
Yeah.
Didn't Gabe Vincent go to the Lakers?
Yeah,
Gabe Vincent's on the Lakers, bro.
Is he?
Yeah, he's on the Lakers with LeBron and the boys.
Okay.
So you lose Gabe Vincent and Strus, two guys who were absolutely huge to your playoff run, and you don't add anybody. Yeah, he's on the Lakers.
Yeah.
So
speaking of the Lakers.
Sneaky.
Here's Anthony Davis talking about just all the discourse around the Nuggets, and this is him at Media Day. Let's see what he has to say, because we do know that is interesting. Here's Anthony Davis.
Congratulate him, like you got this one, but KCP's my guy, so you kind of congratulate him, like you got this one, but it was just a lot of like the talking and all the Lakers that like, it was just so much of that going on. Like, all right, we get it, y'all won, but I think me and Brian had some conversations like we can't wait, like.
Where you at? Where you at with Anthony Davis? That type of talk. He said he's trying to play all 82. Did him and LeBron have that conversation? Like, yeah, we got to go try to clip Denver.
Bro, play. I don't know. Play 65 games.
Yeah, that's it, right?
But listen, that's great. Play 65 games, man, and play those games like you played when LeBron was gone and you were one of the best players in the league. Play them like that. That's all we need. Hey, listen, you play 65 games, this team is good enough. Play 65 games, man. That's all I shoot for. I don't care what the Nuggets said.
That's anytime I bring up Anthony Davis, that's the only response.
36 games in 2020, 2021, 40 games in 2021, 2022, and 56 games last year. Give me 65 ball games. That's it. Give me 65 ball games and then give me 25 and 12 with elite defense. Stop shooting threes.
13 and 3 blocks.
Yeah. Stop shooting threes, which he had stopped doing. He shot 3.5 threes per game in 2019, took it all the way down to 1.3 last year. So at least he recognized that's not his strength. I know the playoff run, whether it was championship run, he was hitting threes, but that was kind of an aberration. Coming back down to earth, just be a big, play the 5, play elite level defense, and play 65 games.
Also, this is partly them, I think, trying to hype themselves up a little bit. If you remember, Denver didn't say too much about the Lakers at all.
I don't remember a lot of that at all. I don't at all.
Like maybe KCP was talking shit to AD on the on a text exchange.
KCP was talking shit to Sean Little at the United States. That's what he does.
Shout out KCP. Yeah, that's a great story. But yeah, he might have been talking shit, but like that whole thing was more on Twitter and on the media. Denver wasn't talking to anybody.
I
they
don't
were
think
just
Denver,
playing ball.
Their best player doesn't talk. So I don't, and Murray, I that's the first time I've actually heard that clip. I don't recall a lot of back and forth between the Lakers and Nuggets to the point where it would be like a story heading into training camp the next year. So yeah, it is surprised that him and LeBron talked about that. That's some LeBron type shit. So that's how you know he's been around LeBron. Just like kind of pulling some shit out of nowhere. Whatever. Yeah, I heard this person say this. Now you all said that, and now I'm on a mission. Like I don't need to hear any of that. Listen, man, play 65 games and dominate, dude. That's it. We're still waiting.
Let's talk the Phoenix Suns. We haven't talked about just this overall thing. Here's Frank Vogel. He talked about just trying to get the guys to mesh now with Beal and Book and Katie and the rest of those guys. Here are his thoughts right here. Here's Frank Vogel in his first year out in Phoenix.
Similar, but it's, it's similar, but it's, those relationships are not too different than the relationship with Grayson Allen or Yuta or, all the guys on your team. You want to get to know them as people. You want to see how you can help them in their career and what positions we can put them in to help them reach another level of their success. But also, making sure that the environment around those guys is going to be held to a high standard. So I think there are similarities from that standpoint.
Can you assess the Western?
Yeah, it's similar, but it's.
That was Frank Vogel talking about the difference with, is it similar to have, you just coached AD and LeBron. Is it going to be similar coaching KD and the rest of those guys? How do you feel about that answer? How do you feel about just that team meshing? How long is it going to take?
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit different coaching LeBron than it is anybody else because LeBron is such like
an extension,
overwhelming. You can't treat him just like one of the guys because he's just not one of the guys, right? He's so in the organization, whereas KD just wants to hoop. So I think that's a little bit different. I think with them, man, it's just a matter of meshing, right? If you could put them together and get them playing well on the court, keeping those guys healthy, keeping KD healthy, understand that you got a couple older guys in Beal and KD that you're going to have to manage correctly. So working in some of those pieces that you move for, kind of building this thing around Book and letting them know, hey, you are, Chris Paul's gone, everybody's gone. This thing is 100% kind of about you. I think that that's actually the key to this team. Devin Booker has to be the guy, right? KD might be the best player. Beal, all those guys are going to be important, but I think you are building this team around Devin Booker. He's your young guy. He's your guy that's going to be there for most of the games. He's the guy that's going to carry you because inevitably KD is going to miss some time, right? Inevitably Brad Beal is going to miss some time, whether it's time management or the injury. And both of these guys have gotten injured over the last few years. Yeah. It's going to be Booker's going to be the most important thing there. Like without a doubt, Devin Booker's the most important thing, especially with no Chris Paul, right? Because Chris Paul, as difficult as he can make it for you sometimes, he made it really, 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 really easy as far as decision making. You're just kind of allowed to go out there and hoop with Chris Paul because he does so much of the thinking for you. So now you got to take what you've learned from him and you got to be out there and kind of push that down to the rest of the team. So I think Booker's the most important player. Massive year for Devin Booker. If you are that guy, which we all believe that he is, he kind of.
I've always believed it.
Yeah.
Been trying to get Nick on board for years.
Yeah, no, if you get 70 in a loss, you got to do it. So you know,
if you can, that's put that on a t-shirt. If you can get 70 in a loss, you got to do it. That's hilarious.
But yeah, so I think Book is the most important thing they got going there for everything I just laid out, man. But I'm not worried, right? I think that's if again he is that guy, and Vogel has dealt with the big egos before, right? So he understands what goes along with this and how to keep guys happy. Now he did it in the bubble, but he's done it, so a little bit easier. But yeah, I think it's fine, man. And I think that taking Aiden and kind of splitting him up into a bunch of little parts that may not have equaled to DeAndre Aiden, but are exactly what they needed. Because again, we talked about the playoff run last year with them. Depth was the issue. Getting guys who can play real NBA minutes is extremely important for those same reasons I laid out as to why Booker's important. Again, you're relying on two older players in Beal and Durant that have had a lot of miles.
Yeah, I mean, this is now full off season with Durant in Phoenix. So this is year 1.5, full year though. So Beal should be able to, as long as Beal doesn't get in his feelings about maybe attempts, then I think everything can work out.
If Beal wanted attempts, then he should have stayed in Washington because they were all there for you.
But you know how that goes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Eventually. JJ Redick even talked about this on the Old Man and the Three. He just talked about how, like, man,
accepting that role. I saw.
I'm that guy, and I'm getting 3-4 shots a game. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So that's gonna creep in when it comes to guys like Brad Beal, just volume, who have been volume scorers their entire career. All right, we're gonna get
who do they run offense through? That's my question for them is we've seen before Chris Paul, they did try to run offense through Devin Booker, and it's kind of like Levine. It's not necessarily he's a 2, right? Like he is a scoring guard. So who do you run the offense through? Who is their point guard right now? I know they brought somebody in.
It's our boy.
Who? Bad Bev?
No. No, it's they're gonna run it. First of all, to be honest, I don't know who runs point.
They don't have a point guard on their roster.
They don't really have a point guard.
They actually do not have a point guard on the roster. Their
Outside
guards
of the
Grayson Allen, Brad Beal, Devin Booker, Keon
Terrence
Johnson,
Ross,
Damian Lee.
Terrence
Ross. You cannot run offense through Terrence Ross.
No,
he's here for buckets.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. That's one of the big questions that we're gonna find out who's running the offense.
They actually don't have a point guard. Yeah, they have no one that would qualify as a point guard. I guess I don't know who Saban Lee is.
Yeah. So all right, let's get you out of here on this. Boston
got TJ Warren though, so they're good, right, Sean?
Hey man, TJ Warren. You never know what TJ gonna wake up. You know what I'm saying? Depending on the day.
Bubble.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this. Boston Celtics are absolutely loaded. They add Drew Holiday. They add Kristaps. They lose Marcus Smart.
Fine.
You think so? Because I think a big edge mentally and the guy that made an impact in that room and brought the fire was Marcus Smart.
Yeah, but too often in the fourth quarter, the ball found Marcus Smart in crucial situations.
Nick, that's because no one else wanted to find it.
I think
that's honesty. Like, there's a reason Marcus Smart always found the rock is because he was willing to go get it at any point in the
and
finals.
Marcus Smart is
wherever.
the ultimate. Like, you got to watch don't look at statistics. You have to watch to really see his impact because there's so many small things. There's so many loose balls he goes after. There's so many of this and that hustle players. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, you upgraded from Marcus Smart to Drew Holiday and added Kristaps Porzingis, and you're going to do that 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, and Memphis went and got some vet leadership for John Morant. They add Derrick Rose. They add Marcus Smart.
I love Derrick Rose quotes yesterday. It was so real. Do you see that?
Yeah,
I'm not here to I'm not here to handhold you. You start doing some dumb shit, I'm gonna tell you. I'm not here to babysit you. That's literally the only reason he's probably on the roster. And what's he gonna say? And he's not gonna say shit to D Rose. And he's not gonna. Yeah, exactly. D Rose is like, I'll bring you around some real guys. But
also, D Rose is the type of guy. He's not gonna. He gonna tell you.
Yeah.
But he's not gonna.
I'm not gonna follow up.
Yeah, right. He's not gonna hold your hand now. You know what I'm saying? He gonna tell you like, look. That's some dumbass shit. You probably shouldn't do that. And then when it happens, like, hey man, I told him.
Bro.
So yeah, it's very interesting. But let's get out of here. Boston Celtics. Here's our boy Joe Mazzulla.
Oh my God.
Had a rough year last year in a lot of different spots, but that team is so loaded. Can they overcome him? Here's his comments overall about being flexible and starting different maybe sets of 5 to work around that depth.
Lineup changing it all based on the matchup. Do you anticipate the starting lineup changing it all based on the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to have a level of flexibility in order for us to maximize our roster on both ends of the floor. And I think flexibility and malleability and the ability to go to different matchups has to be a strength of ours. And so there will be a time where we say, this is what we're doing. But I think we have to be as open-minded as possible to play in those different ways.
Do you anticipate the starting lineup changing?
He didn't upgrade the chain in the offseason. Come on, man. Come on.
Man.
I know you have time to last year, but you're gonna upgrade the chain this offseason.
He gotta focus on getting W's and dealing with this roster, because look, man, this roster is loaded. Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Kristaps, Peyton Pritchard still on the roster.
Bucket.
Jason Tatum, Derek White. I mean, it's loaded. Yeah. The squad is loaded.
I imagine that Drew takes some minutes from Derek White, right? Because Derek White's kind of a defensive guy.
Derek White is an everything guy.
Yeah, there's some moves. They're deep.
Derek
They're
White
always
can do
deep.
it all.
Yeah. I think he hit that on that. You got to figure out the right lineups on this team, but it's always going to be the same question with the Boston Celtics. How are we going to close games? How are we going to close games? How are we going to protect leads in important games? Is Tatum going to be the guy who's carrying us down the stretch? You're right. You hit it on the head. The reason that Marcus Smart found himself in those situations is your two max contract guys tend to not want to find themselves in a situation, right? Jaylen Brown can't dribble, and Tatum, for whatever reason, will disappear on you.
Sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes he would.
And sometimes he wouldn't, and sometimes he would. So you don't really know what you're going to get. So hopefully you bring in a guy like Drew, who you believe is a no-nonsense guy, and is going to kind of tell, hey, look, man, you take the ball, right? When I won a championship, our best player went for 50 in the closeout game. That's the mentality that you have to have, right? That's the mentality that you have to have. That's how you win a championship. So the same questions are still going to remain with the Boston Celtics, right? Yeah. It is not a talent issue. They can add as much talent as they want. They've been the most talented roster in the league, right? If we're really being honest. No one has two guys with a talent level as far as perimeter scorers. You're talking about 2 30-plus point per game scorers on the perimeter that both play two ways, right? So there's never been an issue of talent. That's why they get far. That's why they get where they're going. But there's been other issues. Again, this is a team that, for whatever reasons, on their third head coach in 3 years, or in 4 years, right? So there's just been other stuff. Can they quiet that noise, number one, which, again, it came in very loud last offseason. You're not dealing with any of that. But can you establish who you are when it counts at the end of games? Can Joe Mazzulla establish some sort of hierarchy within there? Can you call the right plays? Are we not running? What did they run against Miami? What was it? Didn't Marcus Smart end up? I wish we still had that play. I don't remember. So much has happened since then, but I wish we still had that play that they ended the season on last year. And that is indicative of who the Boston Celtics have been. So if shit like that isn't happening, then we're good, because from a talent standpoint, nobody's messing with you. That's why you guys can bullshit and still find yourselves in positions to make the NBA Finals. Because from a talent perspective, if you roll out 5-on-5, nobody's really messing with you. But when shit gets tight and you run into better coaching and better execution, like you did with the Miami Heat, right? Like you did with the Golden State Warriors a couple years back, you will get exposed. You're not set up to go to the finals. You're not set up to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. It is win or bust. Win or bust. It's not good enough to get there. It's not good enough to get to Game 7. You have to win a championship. This is a win-now situation. If they don't, it really is. I don't know how many other teams there are that we can legitimately say like championship or bust, but you have done everything else but win a championship.
We'll leave it there. For Big Nick the Quick, this is No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Little. Make sure you subscribe everywhere. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll see y'all Friday for the Bears recap coming off of Thursday night football. Let's see where that takes us. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. We'll see y'all in a few.